This is how I would recommend getting started. After you've watched the videos, please make sure you watch the videos. I have good information in there that will help make your stuff stronger. I know there's a desire to just rush in and start making stuff. Trust me, it's worthwhile. We're going to be revisiting those things over and over throughout the course of the year. So the first thing I want you to do is go ahead and copy one of your drawing pieces. So I'm just going to copy this. And then once you have your personal manifesto open, go ahead and zoom out a ways. And now I'm just going to paste. Do Command V. Mine was sideways, so I'm going to rotate this and I'm going to shrink this down. And if you have multiple copies, go ahead and just paste them in and just have your multiple copies kind of floating outside of the artboards. This will help you because you'll be able to match some stuff up. Plus, I'll be able to see what your inspiration was. So what we're going to do here is you're going to be putting in, you're going to decide which one for your first phrase, which are the three that you think have the most potential. And you're going to recreate just in black and white. So for example, like that, just in black and white using different fonts, you're going to create that. Don't worry about creating the actual graphic or anything. We're going to do that in a later lesson inside of this same document. But for now, we're going to start with just one of these. Now, the first thing I'd recommend doing is going and seeing if you can find some fonts that you think will work well. But before I do that, I'm going to come down here. I've got You're Okay, a work in progress. What I would recommend is put in separate boxes. I'm just going to do your, and I'm going to make another text box just by clicking, not clicking and dragging. So just by clicking, I'm going to do okay. So I'm separating those into two separate boxes. The reason this is important is regardless of what font I'm using, if I have this and I hold down my Option key, I can duplicate it. So I'm going to leave my empty ones up here. I'm also going to do another one here for a, and then the next line was, whoops, let me hit delete. A work, new box in new box progress. Now, the reason I'm breaking these up into separate boxes, this is going to allow me to change the size and the fonts and the colors much more quickly. So even if I end up using these things, notice I'm highlighting them. And over here, this is where I was talking about before. There's right alignment, center, or left alignment, center, and right. There's also top, middle, and bottom. I'm going to click bottom, and now they're all lined up. So I'm going to put that over here. So what I can do with this is by having these in separate boxes, I'm going to be able to take this, I'm holding down the Option key and dragging them over. And then now I can start to play around with just the size difference. I do not want to use this default font. That's the most generic, basic font ever. So I really don't want to do that. I want to have something that's going to stand out more for the You're Okay. But let me start first by highlighting these. And if I hold down the Shift key, I can scale these much, much larger. So I can decide I want this part to be the thing that stands out. So if I'm looking here at this first drawing, I'm going to say I want to do this one. So I'm going to basically create this. And now I'm going to look for a font that is this scripted font. Looks like I've got a script font and then maybe a bold font. So what I can do is I can come in here. I'm going to open up Adobe Fonts. So I'm not even going to use one of the preset ones that are here so that we can make these more unique. What you can do is you can go to adobe.com and then sign in. Once you've signed in with your school account, then you're going to be able to go to the Creative Cloud. It takes a moment for this to load. All right, and where are my fonts? Interesting. So I'm just going to type in fonts right up here. Keep moving things around. Well, that's stinking annoying. Let me try this again. Adobe Fonts. Browse fonts. There we go. So do Adobe Fonts, browse fonts. And then over here are all the different categories that Adobe has come up with for different styles of fonts. So what you can do is right in here, I can type in your, or Y-O-U-R. So I do it in lowercase and capital. And then I'm going to do OK, and then OK. The reason I'm doing them in lowercase and capital is some fonts are only available in bold and all caps. Some look better when they're like this sentence case where the first letter is capitalized. So the cool part here is now I can go in and go, here, I'm going to look at brush pins. And I can start to see, like, see what I was mentioning before? All caps, sometimes on script, just doesn't look good. Looks okay there, but that screaming for too much attention. So I can go through and I can start to see, maybe that one looks kind of cool. So I'm going to hit View Family. And I'm going to wait for a minute and kind of decide which one of these do I like. Oh, wow, there's a lot. Some are only going to have one listed. Some are going to be more. Like, that's kind of hard to read. So this is the part that's going to take some time, is actually coming through and finding a font that you think looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that one. I'm going to activate that one. And it's worth spending a little bit of time going through and trying to find, maybe I want cursive instead. Oh, I kind of like that Y. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and take that one. All right, now that those are activated, give it a minute. It's activating the font. And then now I can come in here and I can try out those fonts. So I can highlight both of these. I can come over, and to find the ones that I downloaded, I can click just on this one to see which ones I've activated. Then I can go down and find, ooh, mine's probably not the best example because I've got a lot. So you'll probably want to pay attention to what the name was on the fonts that you downloaded, because I did not when I was doing it. There we go. You're okay. Then I can do the same thing with the sans serif font. With this one, I'm going to do a sans serif just to have some contrast difference. So I'm going to go in and I can actually turn off the one I activated. And if I want, I can filter them and say, show me ones that are just sans serif. This is only going to show me ones that I've downloaded, though. So I kind of am taking a step back. I'm kind of going faster. You're going to need to go through and try to find some. I've already downloaded quite a few different fonts that are here. So maybe I'll try something like that. And I'm going to go back to this original picture and kind of see, okay, so I was originally thinking you're okay, and then a work in progress below. All right. So now I can highlight those. By having them in a separate box, it allows me to nudge them around with my arrow keys. And I can go in later and I'll be able to change the size on these. Since I didn't put this in the same box, I'm playing around with the spacing so that it looks right. Then I can highlight all of these. If I want, I can press Command G to group. That way, when I grab them, they'll all move together. Now I'm going to center that on the page. So I'm going to highlight this. Notice how often I'm clicking away and coming back to it. It's just a habit that I've gotten into to select and deselect. So now I can come over here. And if I want to center these perfectly on the page, there's this align that says align to artboard. Usually it's set to align to selection, but if I do align to artboard and I hit center, it perfectly centers it within that space. If I wanted for some reason this to be perfectly centered as well, except instead of it being just in the center here, but I want it centered on the horizontal, I can choose this one. And now that's perfectly centered on there. So I've got my first one done. And what you'll do is you'll repeat the same process for one and your second one, and then like your third one, and lay out the fonts with, lay out the layouts just with black and white. Or if you want to go to grayscale, you can totally do that. Just highlight the text. If you wanted to emphasize one versus another, like say down here, if I decided, let me go back. If I decided I wanted these to all be like a gray color instead, I could go in and choose this and just kind of go up with a lighter gray. If at this stage you know your background color is going to be a way different color and you wanted to put a gray on there and arrange it and send it to back, That's perfectly fine. But then you'll have to figure out like, ooh, that makes this text down here like impossible to read. So I'm going to change that font back to white instead of black. So I'd be okay with you changing the background to a gray, a white, or a black, and then you can change the colors of your fonts accordingly. So 3 of the 6 you did for one phrase, 3 of the 6 you did for the second phrase, and so on. We're going to use this document and we'll pull the things you've already done when we start dealing with color and graphics. But for now, I just want you to focus on getting your fonts to be somewhat unique to you. So that means don't just go over and choose a pre-existing one that's over here. There are some, but try to find some that are workable. If it's not listing your fonts, see how I did the filter? I'm going to turn off the filter and do clear all. And now everything's showing. So anytime you click on any one of these, it limits the number of fonts that are showing up. So just make sure when you're done, do clear all and make sure that's not turned on, and you'll be able to view your fonts. I will be here in class to help you with this, but the basic idea is start first, type out your words in separate boxes, duplicate them, then pick the 3 that have the most potential and recreate that by finding custom fonts and activating them on adobefonts.com.